Good evening. My name is Representative Will Darby from Nashua Ward 8. I appreciate you coming to the Nashua listening session with Nashua State Reps, constituent listening session with Nashua State Reps. I'm just going to say a couple of very brief words, turn it over to Manny Especia, who's going to moderate it. So we understand that people are concerned, worried, and even scared about the unending news cycles from Washington and Concord. We want to hear your thoughts, concerns, and ideas, and we are here to listen. Many people ask, what are our elected officials doing to counter all the issues? So what are we doing? We're showing up, we're holding the line, working across party lines to lessen or even kill bad bills, and holding bad actors accountable. We are connecting people with resources. We have the experience and connections to help find answers, and we want to help people. We want to help you. It is our job to help organize people by sharing information, educational materials, and joining in efforts right alongside them. You are not alone. So what can you do? Be loud and share your stories. That's exactly what this is about. Budget cuts and policy changes are abstract, personal stories, and the results of those cuts help others understand the true impacts. Organize, talk to family, friends, neighbors, put it on Facebook, college groups, share your thoughts and ideas. Lastly, take care of yourselves. This is a marathon, not a sprint. If you are overwhelmed, let someone else take over for a bit. And with that, I'm turning it over to Manny and going to find a chair.
Thank you, Representative Darby. My name is Manny Especia. I'm a former representative of Ward 4, and I'll be moderating this event for y'all. This is not going to be a debate. This forum is a listening session, so we want to hear from y'all. Our state representatives, which we're very lucky to have, are here to listen to y'all and want to hear your issues, want to hear what's going on in the community that you think should be addressed, and want to hear, if they have any questions about, what's going on in Concord. They're here to also answer any of those questions. But mostly, they're here to listen to all of y'all. So when we start, we're going to do a round of introductions for everybody. And when we start, after we finish introductions, I want y'all to come up. I'll pass the mic off to y'all, and then y'all can start talking to our reps. So you'll line up right there, and when it's your turn, if you could please state your name, your ward/town or ward, and you'll have 3 minutes to share your concerns. And at that point, I'll raise my hand and tell y'all that your 3 minutes are up. And I'll select state reps interested in following up with any question or suggestion. We're very lucky that we have so many that they represent many of the committees that we have that they have up in Concord. And I'll have either one or two of them respond to that. And if you have any more comments, then we ask that you line back up, just because we want to give everyone the opportunity to air any issues or to say anything that is important to them. And before I introduce the folks who are here, I want to give some recognition to the folks who are some of our elected officials who are not from Nashua who are here. So, we're very lucky to have our state senator. So I'd like to introduce our state senator, Cindy Rosenwald. We're lucky to have a few of our other state reps from the area. So Representative Wendy Thomas from Merrimack. And Representative Dan Leclerc from Amherst. Is there anybody else I'm missing? Nope. Perfect. All right. Well, with that, without further ado, I guess Alicia, if you want to. Oh, there's a mic over there. Want to go ahead and start over there? If representatives, if you want to give us your name, your ward, and your committee, and then pass it to the next person, that would be excellent. So name, committee, and ward.
Good evening. I'm Linda Ryan from Ward 2. My committee is Recreation, Resources, and Development. So think about dirty water, boat speed limits, and growing resort areas.
Manoj Chaurasia from Nashua Ward 8, and I'm in Commerce and Consumer Affairs Committee. Takes care of banking, insurance, and liquor licenses.
Heather Raymond, Ward 1. I'm on the Child and Family Law Committee and the DCYF Advisory Board.
Santosh Salvi, Ward 5. I'm on Consumer and Commerce Committee and Hillsborough County Delegation.
Hi, I'm Leanne Kluger. I'm on the Education Policy and Administration Committee, and I'm in Ward 3.
I'm Suzanne Vale, and I'm from Nashua, Ward 3, and I'm on the Resources, Recreation, and Development Committee.
Thanks. I'm not going to stand. Sue Newman, Ward 2, Nashua. My committee is Public Works and Highways. That's the capital budget on 1 year, and the next year it's the 10-year transportation plan. My husband is also a rep. He will be coming. He's coming late, though. Thank you.
I'm Representative Catherine Safakidis from Ward 7, and I'm on the Environment and Agriculture Committee.
I'm Marty Jack from Ward 9. I'm on Public Works and Highways.
I'm Carrie Spear, Ward 3, and I'm on the Commerce Committee, and I specialize in health insurance and cryptocurrency and blockchain.
Hello, thank you all for being here. I'm Alicia Gregg, Ward 7, and I serve on the Children and Family Law Committee.
Crystal Lloyd, Ward 6. I serve on State Federal Relations and Veterans Affairs Committee.
I'm Laura Tulersky, Ward 8. I'm on the House Finance Committee. I'm the Deputy House Democratic Leader.
Susan Elberger, Ward 1, House Ways and Means.
Hello, everyone. My name is Paige Boschman. I represent Ward 4. I am not on a committee, but I do work around women's maternal child health, paid leave, and childcare. Thank you.
I'm Representative Linda Harriet Gathright. I am Ward 9. I am the ranking member for Criminal Justice Public Safety, as well as the clerk for Hillsborough County Executive Committee.
Dale Swanson, Ward 1. I'm on the Science, Technology, and Energy Committee. That's probably small s science, small technology, small t technology, and big E energy, which is where we have a lot of emphasis and work a lot with that, where you get your electricity and so forth.
Good evening. Lou Juris here from Ward 7, and I also serve on the Public Works. Thank you. Good evening, and good to see you all tonight.
Hi, Sanjeev Manohar, State Federal and Veterans Affairs Committee, Ward 5.
Hi, I already introduced myself, but I am Will Darby, Ward 8, but I am on the Resources, Recreation, and Development Committee. Nashua just loves our resources.
Good evening. I'm Esther Boris, representative of Ward 6 in Nashua. I'm actually on the Housing Committee and the Rare Disease Advisory Council. Nice to see everyone.
Great. So thank you all so much for introducing yourselves. And so without further ado, if folks want to start lining up, we can go ahead and start this listening session off. So don't be shy.
Hi, thank you so much for being here. I'm personally in danger of losing my health care, and that scares me. I'm going to be getting all my care in the ER, which is going to drive up costs for everybody. And I hate to say this, but even more important than my personal situation to me is why our senators, Shaheen and Hassan, are voting along with Trump's appointees that are wholly unqualified. I have written to them, I have called them, I have protested, and I hear nothing back from those senators. I get a blanket, if I get something, it's a blanket form, thanks for contacting. And there was even one vote, I believe, where if Shaheen hadn't voted that way, this person wouldn't have been appointed. There was one tie break that I can think of off the top of my head. And this is not what we elected our reps to do and our senators. And I'm so appreciative of everything these reps are doing. I've seen it firsthand, but I'm super concerned about our senators and want to know how we can get them to engage with us and even answer us. My husband has called, written, protested, crickets. And that's what I expect from Republicans, not from the senators that I voted for. Thank you.
I'll just comment. I know Alicia well. Thank you for coming. And I will say that what we're seeing, coming out of Washington is a challenge. We are also, your mouthpiece. If you are having trouble getting in touch with the federal delegation, you can reach out to one of us and we can see if we can help get you some answers and get you in touch. I just wanted to say very quickly, we are very concerned, obviously, with the cuts we're seeing coming to Medicaid and other healthcare issues as we are developing the state budget. It's really difficult because we are facing our own state level cuts here, and it's almost hard to say what's going to happen after DC figures out what's going to happen. How is New Hampshire going to respond? We're very lucky that Senator Rosenwald has been in the healthcare fight for years and years, and we are watching it very closely, and we are fighting very hard to make sure that healthcare is protected. We're doing all we can to make sure it's accessible and affordable, because the result of people getting uncompensated care is going to impact every single one of us. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Carol Duffy. I'm from Ward 1. My big concern is children. My entire career, I worked with children, and I am really upset about the fact that I grew up knowing that there was separation between church and state, and at this point in time, our state is getting involved in paying for religious education. I am very upset about that. Our forefathers knew that they didn't want to have government in their religion, nor do we want religion in our government. So I really would like you all to seriously consider what you're doing with the monies that are going towards private schools. Our public schools are excellent. We have many kids that go off to fabulous schools. Many kids can get great educations within our elementary schools, our middle schools, our high schools. We also have an opportunity for kids to go to charter schools, which are also part of our school system. There's no reason why we have to pay for private schools. I'm also very concerned about some of the children who might be at home having school on the TV, having school on iPads without any kind of socialization. And then we worry about the kids, that they have anxiety, they have all kinds of problems, and they don't know how to relate to others. So I really, there's no, parents do not have to have their kids tested. They keep them home. They can do what they want with them. There's no set curriculum. So I really feel like we need to get our hands on that.
Everyone's pointing at me. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. So people are pointing at me because I'm also on the Nashua School Board, I think, and I'm on Child and Family Law. I don't think there's a person in this circle who supports vouchers right now. So we're all voting against it. And we agree with you when it comes to education. I know that Nashua gets a bad rap, but we have a higher Ivy acceptance rate than BG does. So I feel like we have the largest CTE program in the state. We have the most AP courses in the state. And no one ever talks about how awesome Nashua is. But we also have a really high poverty level. And so we're meeting kids where they're at, and we're getting them where they need to go by the time they graduate. I don't know what else.
Please
Was there another question?
We don't hear your voices. I didn't know that. I had no idea. I don't hear you in the newspapers. I don't hear you in front of anybody.
All right. So she's asking us to speak out about that more. And I have no problem being loud about how great Nashua is. I'm on social media. I get a lot of pushback on social media for saying that Nashua is great. But it's great, and I'm sure lots of us will be happy to write op-eds about it.
Can we ask you to call your governor many, many times? Thank you.
And your senator.
Yes.
Our next
Hi, I'm Cynthia Knowles, Ward 6, and there is a vote coming up on Thursday, SB 96, relative to mandatory disclosure by school district employees to parents. And I am concerned about children, especially who have not only identity issues, but also, in some cases, potential abuse. And that it's very important for kids to be able to feel that there are safe adults who are caring for them. So I would ask you to oppose that SB 96. And I'm especially concerned about the state of health care for non-binary kids, that most teens or young adults are kids that I know who are non-binary, but I'm thinking of one 3-year-old who, well, now is 9, but at 3 decided that he was named, I'll call him Patrick, decided to come up with a more feminine name and only wanted to wear dresses. And this was during COVID. Patrick's mom was not, sure what the future would hold, but when Patrick was able to go back to daycare, they decided that that Patrick had to be called Patrick, even though they're wearing dresses. And I'm just very concerned about what happens when Patrick starts hitting puberty, that if they're not allowed to have puberty blockers or health care that's relative, that's going to be a big problem. And Patrick's mom is scared for Patrick, and according to a 2023 Centers for Disease Control and Prevention study, suicide is the second leading cause of death for adolescents between the ages of 10 and 14, and the third leading cause, 15 to 25. And according to the Academy of Pediatrics, more than half of transgender male teens who participated in American Academy of Pediatrics survey reported attempting suicide in their lifetime, while 29.9% of transgender female teens said they attempted suicide. Among non-binary youth, 41.8% of respondents stated that they had attempted suicide at some point in their lives. I know what it's like to have a family member die of suicide. I believe parents and health professionals should be the ones making these decisions, not lawmakers. Thank you.
Can I go ahead and take this, respond to that? Cynthia, thank you for your words. And I think one of the things a theme that we're continuing to see this year is a hit on children's constitutional rights. And I think we hear over and over that there's a fight between an ideology that children belong to their parents, so they belong to the school. But I know that everybody on this panel firmly believes that children have their own rights. They have their constitutional rights. Part of that comes with that health care. Part of it comes with being able to tell trusted teachers, One Trusted Adult, which is a program that Sununu started that we want to protect, that they do have a safe place to go to. So this is something that's big on all of our lists. We had some definitions of child abuse and neglect. Those have not been updated since 1980, when we could all ride in the back windows of a car. And we just are really failing the children when it comes to these protections. So rest assured, we really are trying, but we have to somehow reach people that maybe don't think like us to talk about the fact that these children do have constitutional rights. And we are not upholding our oath to the Constitution if we're continuing to take away those rights. So, but everybody on this panel is very passionate about that.
Thank you. And thank you for your comments and concerns. I am on the committee concerning SB 96. Actually, I am doing the floor speech this Thursday as that bill comes forth. And I agree with everything the representative said and will be included in my speech. But I will say also, additionally, that there's also a teacher perspective here. We're putting teachers in a very precarious dilemma by asking them to share information that they just might not be comfortable sharing with the parent because they're not certain of the reaction from that person. And the amendment of this bill mentions that the teacher can use her best judgment, there's other legal words used there, and make a decision concerning that. And as a former educator, I can tell you, while I knew all of the parents of students that I taught, I couldn't make a solid judgment, or should be expected to make that type of a judgment when it involves safety. So thank you again, and I also think that this bill is mired in the idea of trust. I heard that on that committee over and over again every single time we discussed this, and it's the trust of the student, the trust of the teacher. Republicans are supporting the bill, and you know, no one on my committee that's a Democrat is supporting the bill, but it was interesting to me because trust kept getting brought up, and along the lines of the student rights, we weren't giving the trust that the student deserved to be able to voice how they felt. So, thank you again.
Bill Spencer from Ward 8. The speakers before me are certainly expressing ideas, problems that are much higher on my personal priority list than the item I'm going to speak to, but I didn't want it to get lost. And that is a news story today in the Boston Globe that GBH is laying off a large number of people. Public television, public radio are an important part of our lives, and as federal funds are cut, perhaps you can find somewhere a few dollars for public radio, public television. Thank you.
Having served on the Ways and Means for the last 3 years and trying to find money, we would like to say we can find money. There isn't money to be found at this point. The Republicans have decided that it's more important to provide universal vouchers for education than it is to protect programs that we know will serve the people who are in need. If anybody here has an idea of where we can find money, I'm looking for a leprechaun, quite honestly, to find the pot of gold, but that's where I listen to news, and I wish I could find it for you. Unfortunately, I don't think there is it.
As a personally strong public supporter of New Hampshire public radio and public television, I totally understand the perspective. I do share the concerns, especially on public television, which gets a significant amount of its its funding through the federal government, more so than public radio. I would say this is really where our networks are particularly important, because the groups that are going to be, the stations that are going to be hit the worst are going to be in the rural areas. I'm very worried about, for example, northern New Hampshire, maybe cuts on some of the the outreach channels that reach northern New Hampshire. The West is going to have it much worse, but I think that we all have connections outside of Nashua, and we can share this concern. Those folks can reach out to their congressional delegations and maybe fix things in Washington, because it is definitely a worrisome trend. Thanks.
Others?
Good evening. I'm Judy Blachek, and I'm from Ward 7. I agree with everybody who spoke thus far, and I want to thank all of you for your service. But the one that I'd like to talk about, which is near and dear to my heart, is the library here in Nashua. I'm the president of the Friends of the Library, so I definitely have I want to be an advocate for them, but the cuts that are coming or proposed in the budget will affect the people who use the library dramatically. If this goes through, we will not have Libby, we will not have interlibrary loan, and a whole bunch of other services that the state provides because it's a consortium at the state level. And so if the state is not providing funds, you know, Nashua certainly cannot make up the funds for the entire state. So I don't know what you can comment, but I certainly wanted to voice my opinion.
There's very little in this budget that's a friend to the vast majority of the state. And there's nothing, I believe, so precious as libraries. They're a meeting place. They're a place where the librarians can help anybody. They're a place of joy. They're a place of planting seeds for education, for families, for reading, for teaching the next generation to love information and how to find it. And it's very sad, and we, as a delegation, I believe, are devastated about the cuts that are coming. It's very hard for us, and we worry about all of you and how you're feeling too, because we see it every hour of every day on the news cycle, all the things they want to cut, they want to throw away. And those are things that they seem to be in a bubble in Washington, D.C., that they don't understand that the things that they're doing are just so dramatically awful for the vast majority of Americans. And either red or blue or whatever, they're going to hit everybody equally. And Ward 7 is got a lot of poverty in it, and so it's going to hit the poverty school.
Thanks very much for the question. The sad news is that Hillsborough County Sheriff has also, as of last Thursday, signed an agreement with ICE to cooperate in what's called the 287G program. So everyone up here is a member of the Hillsborough County delegation, and we are about to be voting on a budget. That budget includes about $700,000. This is in addition, this is separate slightly from the 287G, about $700,000 to prepare the prison so that the Hillsborough County Jail can accept federal immigration prisoners, which they believe is because of two recent bills that have been passed and signed by the legislature, obviously no one up here, but and signed by Kelly Ayotte. So what are we doing? Specifically, we are trying to push back on that specific expenditure, basically to discourage, because it is the county sheriff's, sorry, the jail supervisor's prerogative for what contracts they sign with the county commissioners. But we are trying to discourage, through the lack of funding, the ability for them to sign this additional agreement. And we are putting together the case that these, if they are interpreting the laws such that they are incurring costs down to the county level by the passage of these bills, then that actually violates the state constitution, which says that the legislature can't pass laws that downshift costs. So that's one specific area that we're pushing back on. Another specific area that we're pushing back on is most, maybe all of the folks up here and across Hillsborough County recently signed a letter of objection to the Hillsborough County Sheriff. And we went to the Hillsborough County Executive Committee on Thursday, where they discussed the latest area where they discussed the budget. The sheriff was there. Many of us spoke to him in person. and let the sheriff know that we don't agree with this, him signing this, and that that we are going to hold him accountable to following the guidance that basically the policy, that's what he said, the policy that he says he's going to put forth, that it's only for those people that are violating New Hampshire laws. I'm very skeptical, of course. We will be following up in person with him and working with him on that policy, but we are pushing back. Now, as far as the state police, I think it starts first at the county level. We push back against the county, and then as we are successful there, we can push back at the state level as well. Thank you.
What he was just saying is that's a public meeting. Everybody could go to that meeting.
Hi, I just want to say that I agree with everything that Will has just said. It has been very difficult in dealing with the sheriff department as to him making that sign-in with them. What I do know is when he did speak before us, what he said to us, he could do without the 287. He didn't need a 287 to do that. So we are working diligently, the best that we can, and if things work the way we would like it to work, we'd like him to resend his 287. We are also working with the DOC, Department of Correction, which is Costanza, and with the same issues. He seems to want to work with them in order to pay for the bills for anyone that would be coming there, that they pay for their board and keep. That's the essence of it. And so we're working, and he's actually agreed to meet to also talk about whatever plan he has for the future for Valley Street, because that's what he's over the Department of Corrections and the other locations across the state. So we are well aware of what's happening, and we are working as hard and diligently to hopefully stop any more of this, because it's really getting out of control here in New Hampshire.
Yeah, I'm Beth Scare from Ward 7, and we've been talking, I arrived late, but I've been hearing you talk about protecting vulnerable people, and my concern is vulnerable women in prisons, locker rooms, bathrooms, rape crisis shelters, dormitories, and HB 148, which passed the Senate last week, previously passed the House, is about keeping males out of these spaces. And we know males who identify as transgender can be dangerous. We have, at least we have charges against Stacy Loughton, former representative. I don't know where those stand, but he's been charged with very serious crimes against children. And just last week, a trans-identified male was charged with murdering his wife. I was wondering why I think pretty much everybody here voted against allowing these spaces to be segregated by sex.
Hi, Beth. So we are talking about 0.01% of the United States population identifies as transgender. And this has become a divisive political issue that's been elevated to hysterical proportions to score points against each other's party. And it's just, the literature does not bear these things out. And we have disagreed on many things over these many years, and this one is another one. It's just not there. This is just an issue that it's to stir up, to distract from the stuff in Washington, D.C., and to stir people up against each other. And this is not a time for people, 0.01% of the population. That is tiny. They deserve their privacy, they deserve their constitutional rights, and there is just not the stuff that you're saying. It's just not out there. We've looked for the literature, you looked at the literature. The literature does not bear out this hysteria, and I would guess that I would ask you as your state rep to try to deal down this rhetoric, because the way that you presented are these WWE like trans women that are going out to be in sports against these like 90-pound girls, and it's just not that way. And so I would just ask that you would respect the privacy of people who identify differently than anybody else and give them their constitutional rights and leave them be.
I just wanted to say that being transgender is not a crime, and I did hear a couple things come up about people that have committed criminal acts, and that is a different topic altogether.
All right. We're going to go to Paige, and then we're going to move on to if anyone else has another issue.
Thank you. I just want to address the part of talking about safety for women, and I'd go back to what it's dying. Oh, it's good? Okay, sorry. What Representative Sophakita said in terms of the literature, if we're looking at prioritizing resources, time, and money into what keeps women safe, I could probably think about a million other priorities that would be ahead of this, because the percentage that this is happening to, which what you claim is happening isn't happening. And so if we really want to keep people safe, women safe, there are many other ways. And in fact, seeing this legislation across the country has ended up causing more violence to women. There are women all over the country who maybe don't identify as looking like the cultural norms of what some people believe women are supposed to look like. They are being beaten almost to death. And they're being enabled because of this hateful, bigoted rhetoric. And I know that every person on this stage right now, we see the worth and dignity in every human being, and this outright discrimination is a deal breaker. We just don't do it.
So we're gonna move on from this. So does anybody else have any other concerns or suggestions? All right.
Thank you, Manny. James Rafferty from Ward 3, and I wanted to take a moment to thank all the people what you do. I know it's a tough job, and I really appreciate your efforts. Also, the fact that the communications, I feel communicated with significantly as a Ward 3 person. I get notes constantly from Cindy, and we write back and forth. I get notes from our city people, Patricia Klee, and we write back and forth. I get notes from you people, we write back and forth, and we talk. So I think there's lots of information out there to have, and I compliment you guys for spending that effort and time, and I wish you continue. In a forum like this, I think it's important that we, address the 800-pound gorilla in the room, and we're not going to let anybody destroy this democracy. It's been going for a long time, and it's going good, and the founding fathers have proven themselves to be really brilliant people with the balance of power. We're not going to let the courts go away. We're not going to let the legislatures be demeaned, and the presidency will remain a presidency. But bringing it home, I have two issues that I really feel strongly about and want to make sure this group did. One is tourism. We've cut the heck out of tourism. We have this huge advantage from a tourism perspective that people really like and want to come to our great state to hike and join and more than ever come and participate in charitable gaming, which I think our representatives should embrace as part of the whole tourism package for our state. If you go to the new product, the Nash, on the state line, and you look where those license plates are, they're from Massachusetts and surrounding states. This is good business for New Hampshire and Nashua, and we should embrace it. And these crazy cuts that have been made to the tourism budgets by, I don't know what people are thinking up there, are just repugnant and should be changed. And I'd ask you to do whatever you can. But even more close to home, I live in Jackson Falls, is we have an explosion of homelessness in Nashua. It's, I've been walking, my doctor says I should walk 10,000 steps a day. It's really hard. So I've been walking 5. But even if you walk 5 from my apartment, you walk completely around the path of the new Riverwalk. And it is frightening. And I'm not a particularly frightened person. And of people screaming and yelling and arguing, and the behavior is just, it's bad. And it seems to be getting worse every week as we go towards the summer and the warmer months. So I know everybody has a role, everybody has to play a role, the police, et cetera, local people, but the state too has got to get into the housing issue. That is the ultimate, we all know, it's the ultimate solution for homelessness is providing interesting and permanent housing. Other cities have done it, and I think we should get in that business. I appreciate any feedback, and I appreciate this time in this forum. Thank you, George.
I guess I'll start with Esther and then Carrie. Yeah. So is there a mic over there? Oh, you're deferred? Okay. So Carrie, if you want to. Huh? She's not going to answer.
First of all, I want to thank Jim for getting me in touch with the charitable director of the Nash. And I just wanted people to understand and to know how much contributions they've made. It's several millions of dollars in the first couple of months alone, and all the charities that they've contributed to are either very local to Nashua or within the surrounding areas. So the town of Nashua, I guess the city of Nashua, is already getting some very good rewards out of Massachusetts, shall we say? And I think it's doing us a lot of good. And a lot of it, and some of it has to do with homelessness. And so I really am very glad that we're seeing the effects of their charitable works so early in the game. Thanks.
I just wanted to comment quickly because you touched on so many different things there. It shows you how interconnected all of these issues are and how interconnected the state budget is in addressing all of these issues. When you first started talking about homelessness, what I was thinking about was funding to homeless shelters. The fact that we are funding them at roughly $27 a day, which is nearly nothing to keep the lights on and the roof, holding the rain out. But then I started to think about our funding for our mental health services, our community mental health centers, our behavioral health supports, our public health professionals that do that one-on-one interaction and trying to provide the services to these people. So all of that hopefully we saw some funding come back into the budget on the Senate side that can address these issues, which are so important to our community and the communities all across the state. And the fact that we have such strong partners here in Nashua that provide these services, as well as in Manchester, means what? It means that people are drawn to our community because we are a welcoming community that has these services. So I just wanted to say that with the funding that we can get for that outreach effort, I'm hoping that we can continue to provide that support. Now, the housing is yet another layer of this, is being able to provide affordable, accessible workforce housing, housing that can get people in a secure situation so that they can then, get a job and provide for themselves. I'm disappointed to say that there was not any new housing money in the budget this year, which is really unfortunate. We spearheaded last biennium some really unique funding opportunities for housing. I'm very pleased with how the city directly has taken advantage of those opportunities and expanded housing development here in the city, and we are going to keep trying to do that. We are tackling the housing situation in a number of different ways. You maybe have seen with some zoning changes, but the dollars really make a difference. The dollars can help cities invest in these projects, and that's what we really need to see. But I just wanted to address the big picture of your comment. Oh, sorry.
Hi, Dale Swanson here, and that was a multidimensional question, and some better answers as far as the budget than I can give, but I want to point out that there is a moral challenge with many of the bills that we work on because, for example, the state gets money from the sale of liquor. Well, there are people who have dependencies on substances. Well, I should point out that I enjoy gambling, and lived in Las Vegas a few years. My wife and I picked it up, and we occasionally go out, and even last weekend. But we know our limits, but we also know that there are people who struggle with addiction to that kind of a thing as well. So there's a revenue opportunity here, but it's one we have to be careful about how we pursue, because there's another side to this story and the risk it entails. And I just wanted to point that out. So these are not easy questions as far as how to support or what to support as far as these funding areas. And just wanted to share that little bit there. No easy answers, and it may not be cut and dried, and we may not even vote the same way on certain issues. So, but thank you for the question.
And then we'll take or Crystal, and then we'll move, or Susan, and then Crystal, and then, remember, team 2 or 3 people, not 5.
I'd like to add a slightly different perspective here at the risk of annoying some people. Let me put it in those terms. One of the things that I see gambling doing, charitable gambling, any kind of gambling that brings funds in, is that we're allowing the state to not fund programs by itself, and instead saying that we are going to use gambling to fund nonprofits to provide services that, in my mind, the state should be providing by itself. I absolutely appreciate the support that we're getting from the Nash and from Gate City and the other establishments throughout the state. But we are using this money and the projected increase that are going to be coming from slot machines next year to keep avoiding the fact that we need a different way to fund government and fund the services that we provide for people here.
I'll be extremely brief and try to cover this in like 2 sentences. Number one, I came here maybe a couple weeks ago to a community listening session. Hi, Jasmine. And it was held here in the library, and I got to sit, I had the fortunate opportunity to be in the same room as a gentleman who identified himself as homeless. And to talk to him and talk to him about what services he actually needed and what he felt was most useful. And he said a lot of his homelessness was due to a lack of affordable housing, as well as needing assistance for rehab. So my immediate focus, like Laura said, was to really just focus on keeping that type of thing in the state budget. Again, because I don't want to ask people to gamble more or to drink more or to, or smoke.
All right, great. Other folks have any other questions? All right. Well, let's go to folks who haven't come up yet. So, Wendy, do you have something?
Yeah, I do have. So, Wendy Thomas from the town of Merrimack. Hi. So we know at the State House the impact of the Free Staters, and I keep coming across people that don't even know about Free Staters yet. They don't know what they're capable of doing. So I'm wondering if you could give us a very, very brief overview of Free Staters and the impact they are having on our state.
So I recognize the point that Wendy is making, and I've researched it quite a bit. The Free Staters started as a project, as a PhD project from a guy named Jason Sorens out of Yale, and he said if he had 20,000 people, he could take 20,000 people in some of the school stuff that they have tried to pass and library stuff that they've tried to pass has come directly from the Free Staters. And I think people need to be aware that there is this group inside the House and the Senate that's working to destroy a lot of what we believe in, and that's what I think it is.
Go ahead. Pass it to Linda.
Oh.
Or do you want to go?
Yeah, I wanted to say
Okay.
just one thing.
So then real quick and then.
Yeah, so just to add really quick, so one thing that the whole idea is to really cause anarchy, and we have seen, the bills that we have seen from these people are things like seceding from the union. You're seeing a lot of the Bitcoin type of things, little things that somebody very wise told me is like death by 1,000 paper cuts. So you're seeing upending of our social services. They are all for taking away the libraries. They even wanted to take our state library and make it into an office building. So all of these things that are our structure for community, it's taking away. One of the most interesting bills was last year, they wanted to be able to sell bodily fluids and organs without interference from the state. So while a lot of these things seem like so ridiculous you want to laugh at it, this is an idea. They want rules, really not for themselves, maybe for some other people, but it's really a lack of government. They have written that they are bragging that they have 120 liberty candidates, is what they call them, in the House and 5 in the Senate. So that's where we are, and that's where we're seeing a lot of the upending.
Linda, and then we'll go ahead and pass it. Or ask another question. Comment.
So when we talk about these folks, I sit in the back, in the dead center, and they are right all around me. Watch them and listening to them. They want no government in New Hampshire, no sheriffs, no deputies, no public school, nothing. So we say, what can we do? When the next elections come up, you can consider running for your school boards, for our empty seats, and be sure that you vet anybody that's going to be running, because that's how they've infiltrated the Republican Party, is they've just run as Republicans and they get elected. So start thinking about the plan of what we're going to get doing to keep them out of Nashua. There were a couple that ran last time, they didn't win. They're going to run again. Okay.
Next question, next folks. All right. I was like, do y'all want? She's a great gal. Or Gloria, do you want to go? Well, I need you to come up here too. Yes.
I just wanted to piggyback on the Free State. As did I. Good. We still have another hour.
Oh, no.
First, I want to thank all of you guys for coming out and doing this because we need a listening session, and I think this is the very first one, so congratulations. I want to say that. No. I'm not talking about Ward. I'm talking about all the legislators that's out here today. Thank you for coming out. I have two things. We can't stop speaking about what's going on in the state, but we have to let the other people know, because speaking to our constituents, we just get the same old, same old. So we need to spread the word outside our comfort zones. We need to go where they are. You guys might have already said this. I came in a little late. But yes, that's where we need to go. We need to go outside our comfort zone, and we need to go where they are. Because that's where the message gets heard. Not in the room where it's mostly Democrats. I'm a Democrat. Okay. Secondly, that's one comment. The second comment, I want to talk about the gambling. I don't agree with gambling, but I don't oppose gambling. Because on the flip side, Nash gave nonprofits over $50 million. We are not getting it from the state. We still have the problem. I'd rather see somebody eat with gambling money and not eat at all. So that's the point I want to make on the gambling. Okay?
Is it related to gambling? Are you want to say something, Chris?
All right. So very quick answer to that. Yes, Gloria, you are absolutely correct. Our biggest issue is that we need to spread the word, and that is reliant on everybody in here. And I put it to everybody in here, one of the things that you can do is just talk to 5 people. That's all I'm asking for. Talk to 5 people. My dad was a Republican. He would not recognize the Republicans that I deal with in New Hampshire here. I grew up half Republican household. I get it. I understand the arguments and I understand the viewpoints, but that is not what they're doing as Free Staters. No man is an island anymore. It doesn't work that way. We are a community, and as a community, that is where our voice is. So there's that. Number 2 was on gambling. I fully agree that let's use the money, and I appreciate what the Nash has done towards charitable gaming, but I do also want to put out a caution that we just need to be very careful that we're not telling people to gamble more or drink more or,
Is it on? Okay. Patty Dresner, Ward 1. Again, I'm going to repeat what we've all said before. Thank you all for this. It's really opened my eyes. This is the second one I've attended, and I appreciate all of you attending this evening. Earlier, most of what I came to talk about has been addressed, but when the Free Stater issue came up, I was reminded that I was outraged a few days ago to read about Representative Travis Corcoran and his commentary, which is horrifying. And I wondered if there is any censure, because I haven't heard the governor speak about this or any of his party members. And so that's my question. How do we encourage decorum and put down this kind of speech? How can he be an elected official? Are there any African Americans living in his district? Are they outraged? I imagine they are. I personally am outraged that any elected official can speak of other human beings in this way. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Representative Corcoran's comments on X were disgusting, racist, horrifying, and unbecoming of a member of the General Court. And there's something that I want to share that all of you have a role in. We are all put into our seats by our constituents and our voters. Now, there's not a whole lot of action that can be taken to remove someone from a seat, or even to slap their hand and scold them. However, there are two different paths for members of the public to express their concern and outrage. There is a House Joint Ethics Committee that you can file a complaint in. Senator Rosenwald sits on the Ethics Committee. They will take up these, I believe, confidential complaints, and you can go to them and express your concern that a member behaved in a way that could deem the Ethics Committee coming out with some kind of sanction. There is also, for House members, there's a Speakers Advisory Committee that also takes up issues if you would like to go to that committee to express your extreme concern with the behavior of a state rep. Now, I mean, we sort of deal with this on a daily basis, but those are the pathways for the public to do it, but the public has to do it, right? Us complaining doesn't do a whole lot. If you guys all start complaining, then it will make a difference.
Other folks? Oh, okay, awesome.
That was a good point, Patty made. Do I just put this? Oh, okay. Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. This has been a very needful thing, so I'm really glad that you made time. You're all very important people as far as I'm concerned. Getting back to Lynn Roberts, Ward 1. Getting back to this Free Staters, I've been kind of following them as a group for a while now, and I don't know if I'm confused about what state I heard about legislation coming through about every student graduating from a school system needed to be trained in guns. Is this happening in our state? Do you know who the person is whose bill this is, or? I'm horrified by it.
So are we.
Former school worker.
We all are. Yeah. So are we. We're just as horrified by it, but I don't believe that he will get that out of the House. I truly don't, because there are other folks that don't feel the way he does that we might get some votes for against bills like that, but it's always a work in progress, especially that since we're down, 40? I think 40 people. But, sometimes we can get a little help from the other side, and that might be one that we're able to get it on.
And it's grades K through 12. It's not just graduating, it's grades K through 12. We'll have 1 hour every year of gun safety training.
It's an NRA program that's written into the legislation, which is highly unusual that they would put that specifically in there. It's an amendment that we'll be voting on Thursday. It's an amendment being tacked on to another bill, so stay tuned. Yeah.
So if anybody wants to look it up, it's SB 54. The program that is in the bill is the Eddie the Eagle program on the NRA's website. You can go look at it. The bill says 1 hour of training per year starting in kindergarten. It's a cartoon where an eagle says, if you see a gun, don't touch it, tell a grown-up. I don't know how you're going to get a 6-year-old to do that for an hour. And anyone who's ever been around kids knows that if you tell a 6-year-old or 7-year-old, don't touch something, without telling them why they shouldn't, the minute your back is turned, they're going to touch it. It's from a developmental standpoint for kids, it's a horrible program. I have nothing else to say. Everyone opposes it except for the people who wrote it.
I need training and microphones here. I agreed with everything that's said. When they call it the sausage factory, when government works or the legislation is supposed to work. I think this is an example of it. Get an amendment that is finely tuned, finely crafted with a specific agenda, namely from the NRA, blah, 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 and move along. Stick it onto something that probably you want or that the majority wants, and you see if you can get this done. One of the letters I got was an email that I got was from a retired kindergarten teacher. She was absolutely fit to be tied, glad that she was retired, and thankful that she wasn't going to have to deal with the possibility of having to train youngsters to give them any education, quote, education about guns. In these times when we worry and see gun violence and school shootings, and now we're going to have some training on safety for guns at all grade. I thought it was one of the most outrageous things I've seen.
Lastly, everyone in this room can actually send an email to the State House for this Thursday's SB 54. We don't need it. We don't want it. We want to protect our children.
Thank you, Linda. All right, there's somebody in the back out there. All right, I'm coming to y'all, apparently. I got to get my steps in, apparently.
Hello. This is my first time actually standing up here and speaking. Thank you guys for doing this. I receive all the emails, so the last minute, my husband and I decided to come. My name's Kim, Ward 6. I have a question. How are we approaching younger voters? This is my second time coming to something like this, and I do not see a lot of college-age young adults coming to these. Can you let us know? I don't know. I do have a young adult in my periphery asking her what she and her peers are talking about. Many are just scared. This was before the election. They were attending protests and things like that, but I'm not hearing what the young people are doing because I think those are the ones that are unaffected or unaffected voters not really voting. So how are we capturing them? What should we be doing? Where should we be going? What should we be saying? Is there a plan? I would love to know because I don't.
Hello, my name is Santosh Salvi, and I'm just a newly elected state rep. I'm learning a lot in last 4 or 5 months. So I was having the same questions right now that I don't see a single young adults. I do not even see a single, yeah. I would say you should bring 10 more people. So next time I should set 10 more people with you, okay? 10 more young adults. The second thing is why they are not here, because we are not talking their language. They are talking about education. They are talking about jobs. They are talking about economy. They want affordable rent house. So we are really not in last 1.5 hour, or at least 1 hour. I didn't see any of those things we are discussing. We, as a Democratic Party, I love Democratic Party because I'm basically right at the center for many years, and I decided to come to the Democratic Party only for 2 reasons. One is basically reproductive right and sensible gun law. But I'm a businessman, so I know the money doesn't come free. So we need to really talk about getting into any of the bills, because I have not seen any good bills in last 4 or 5 months, which will bring some businesses to this state or to Nashua. We are not even talking about it. If we don't have a job opportunity, if we don't have the good schools, colleges here, many trade school, nothing will come over here. So right now once the session is over, I'm basically being an entrepreneur. I'm going to give a free entrepreneur classes, 6 classes over here in the library. So if you know any young adults, they can join and we can talk about it. If we talk their language, they will come. And I really want more people to talk about economy, jobs, and education within Democratic Party. Thank you.
So, as one of the younger members of the House, I work full-time in addition to doing my state rep work. And so I think that one of the other reasons why we're not seeing young people here is because a lot of them are working 2 to 3 jobs just to get by. And so that prohibits them from being in the spaces during the times that we all are in the spaces during those times. So I think we need to really keep that in mind as we move forward. Additionally, I had a few ideas of reaching out to some younger folks, specifically, and hi, I'm Ward 6 as well, and reaching out to some younger folks specifically in high school and things like that. I was at a sign holding rally when Paige was running. And one of the things that just saddened me the most was a group of high school kids drove by and they said, "Oh, I don't vote." And that broke my heart. We really need to be doing well by our children and talking to them about their civic responsibility to go out and vote. And we need to be talking to them specifically about selecting candidates and researching their candidates and knowing what those candidates stand for. Because I can tell you right now, none of the businesses in Nashua have been asking me for, and Susan said this a couple of times at some of these other listening sessions, none of them have been asking us for tax cuts. What they've been asking us for is affordable childcare. They've been asking us for more opportunities to pay their employees well, those types of things, so that way we can keep talent here in the state and we can give them jobs that help support their lives.
Hi, everyone. I'm Paige Boschman, Ward 4. I don't know if anybody's here from Ward 4. If you are, yay. Oh, besides Manny. Woo! Another thing I think is the language and the tactics that we're using. And so I know there's a lot of conversation about that after this last election. What I guess I'm on the younger side as well, which is funny to say at 46, but I do have 3 small kids and I'm working. And what I am hearing is a lot of people my age and younger at least starting some grassroots effort. So people are talking about what are some of the other things we can do? Can we do podcasts? Can we use social media better? How can we network with each other? Another thing is doing things differently. So going to the people instead of asking them to come to us. So going out into the community. You know, there's a Ward 4 block party coming up in 2 weeks. I'm going to be there so that I can be where the people are. And those are the things that we're seeing representatives doing more and more, is trying to get out into the community so that those faces, they see our faces more and more. I have to say this for Manny, childcare is a big one. And honestly, there was one childcare bill this entire session. And I have to say that we're getting distracted with some of the culture wars. We have spent so much time on some of the culture wars, and yet we've had one child care bill. That is not addressing our constituents' needs. And so honestly, we've got to be able to focus on the things that actually matter to our constituents, and that's hard. We had over 1,000 bills this year. So, and we all, I think Crystal said it, but we get paid $200 for 2 years of work before taxes. Yes, but we do get mileage reimbursement. So, so that is probably the number one reason that younger people are not running. At least I don't know why they're not in this room, but I think the one is a pipeline to the other. So I think it's about using everything that we all said and all these multiple tactics and pushing your representatives. I mean, I'm guilty too. I co-sponsored the child care bill. I didn't write any other bills, so let us know. We're doing a lot right, but we could be focusing on other things as well.
All right, we're gonna give it to Catherine and then Manoj, and then we'll take more things. I just want to take a quick moment of personal privilege, though, to say I pay $1,400 a month for part-time, 3 days a week care. So just to let y'all know, if I didn't have to pay $1,400 a month, I could be spending that money elsewhere. But I don't. But that's because I have to make sure my child, because I work full-time, my wife works full-time. I don't want to take my wife out of the workforce. I want her, or I don't want to get out of the workforce. So it is an issue that a lot of young families face, and the average for two parents or for two kids is $3,200 a month for two kids. It is also a reason why I'm waiting right now to have another kid, is because it is financially could be very difficult. So that is my top issue personally.
My kids are 12, 10, and 6. If I send them, childcare includes summer and after school, right? And so if I wanted to have all three of my kids in camp for 1 month, it's absolutely over $3,000.
So, off to Catherine.
The other thing that that I think for the youth is that no party has really sat down and laid out a plan for climate change. And they're the ones that are going to be like at the end of the parade cleaning up all the elephant poop, you know, that we have just kicked down the road and kicked down the road. And, you know, we make a little token bill here or there. And they're the ones whose houses in Florida are going to be flooded. They're, you know, look at now how many tornadoes we have in the middle of the winter. But it's, you know, people can't get behind the science that it's real, that climate change is here and we've already got the damage happening. And so those kids with the gig economy and with everything else, and then nobody's working on climate change, it's not a good look for us.
I was like, you don't have to look to Florida. You can look at Hampton. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a real thing and right in our backyard. Manoj.
Thank you. So, my name is Manoj Chaurasia, and I'm also first time, this is my first term. So, there are a few things. One, we already covered the child care. You already know that the younger generations, they are struggling already with their jobs. Very hard to find jobs these days. Then housing is another factor. And on top of that, the child care. So obviously, if they're not able to afford the child care, they're not going to be active in these kind of meetings or, you know, going out of the way. They have to just focus on getting job. So we already covered child care. Second thing is, you know, we attended, myself and a parent, we attended, we got invited by Nashua South high school students, and the student, he had organized basically kind of session where we talk about what we do at the State House and how they can be engaged in the political process. So I think engaging with the high school students and having those kind of sessions, that 1 hour session basically, that gave a lot of learning to the students that at how they can get engaged with the process, what difference they can make. So I think we are, from our party, we have to reach out to the high school students, and they probably can, they in turn, they bring their friends. I know we had like 50 or 60 students on that day. It was a very nice session, talked about different stuff that goes in the house. And the third thing, because when they graduate from the colleges, they have a hard time finding jobs. So we just talk about the budget, for example, but we don't talk about how to bring more revenues to the state. If they have to study, and after studying they don't find jobs here, they end up going to other states. So I know we already talked about that also to some extent, but bringing more jobs to New Hampshire, you know, both high-tech jobs and also more skilled jobs, those are things can help out. You won't believe, a month and a half back, we attended business, it was a business conference or something where a lot of business leaders were present. We talked about cutting Medicare and all those stuff, which are important. But none of the business leaders, they asked what we as a legislator can do to, you know, help them out to bring more business in New Hampshire. And I asked them, you know, please share your ideas. So those are things, you know, if we are able to provide the the youngsters more opportunities in jobs, and then they'll have more time for political involvement. So, thank you. Yeah.
Last one goes to Susan, and then we're going to do another question. So.
Several weeks ago, I and a few other reps were up at Plymouth State College listening to some of the things that they're doing there, seeing some extraordinary presentations about work and projects that they've done. It was really, really impressive. As I was talking with them, they were talking about their worries about tuition going up. Now, in addition to us having the lowest per pupil support for K through 12 elementary school in the entire country, we also have at least among, if not the highest, in-state tuition costs for public colleges. Our students can go and be out-of-state students and pay less in some states than they pay for in-state tuition here. Many people, many students, when they go to college, stay where they are. They don't come back because they've developed lives, they've developed friendships, they may have started working where they are. And if we are not making education affordable for them here, they're going to go somewhere else and stay somewhere else because they know they can't get a job. We need to look at all of the pieces and remember that we're not going to have a future here if our students are all leaving.
Next question.
I'm Joan Conacher, Ward 3. One of the things, Freedom Education Fund is a big issue with me, but we've already covered that, thank you. Another thing is, I'm wondering why, whenever we have budget cuts, why we're cutting taxes. The interest and dividends tax is gone away as of next year, and it was cut in half this year. And I don't understand why, when we've got this great economy in this country, and we've really had a good economy for the past, since COVID, really. And what are we going to do when there's a recession if we're having a problem with a good economy and we don't have money for necessary things? So one other little thing, I love living in New Hampshire. I've been here for about 60 years, but I am a little bit ashamed the fact that we fund our government with gambling and liquor, and it used to be cigarettes too. So we should be able to fund our own government. We are really a wealthy state. There's no reason for this.
Anyone who hasn't gone yet?
I can just say, is this still working? Oh, okay, it is now. I can just say that I think that it's a very difficult time to try to understand why the taxes have been slashed the way that they have been. It obviously isn't to serve New Hampshire in any way, and it isn't tax cuts that businesses ask for, as you've heard repeatedly. And so this is what we need to look at when we are getting out there to knock doors. And I want to just say something that goes along with what everybody has been saying about engaging people that are not in this room right now and figuring out what you can do about the situation that we're in right now, where obviously if we're cutting taxes and nobody's asking for them, then we don't have a government that's representing the businesses either in the long run. And we recently went to a business event that was in Nashua where we spoke about the same things, spoke about the healthcare and the reaching people. How do we get them to understand that they're hurting not just us, but they're hurting everybody, including themselves? So I think at this point, though, yes, we need young people. Yes, we need to get outside our own echo chamber. We need to talk to Republicans if you know one. We need to talk to young people if you know one. When you're a legislator, you need to work across the generations.
But I do think the most important thing is to have one-to-one conversations with people when you get an opportunity. And that's how we steer this Titanic, hopefully going in a better direction.
Or actually, first, I think.
My name is Michael Sanborn, Ward 3. I want to bring up what I think is the big elephant in the room, or the freight train heading towards us, and that's AI. It's predicted that in the next 5 to 7 years, 400 million jobs will disappear from the face of the earth because of AI. If you do some back-of-the-napkin math on that, that could mean 50 to 100,000 workers put out of work right here in New Hampshire. That'll raise our unemployment rate up to 6% or so. And for us to be able to deal with those kinds of problems is going to be a monumental task. It'll make everything else that we're talking about really pale in comparison, quite honestly. The reason I'm bringing this up is that because of the reconciliation bill that's in the Congress right now in Washington, there is a clause in that bill that says that the states cannot regulate AI for a period of 10 years going forward. You have got to stop that. Because if our federal government is not going to regulate AI, which they're probably not going to do because they're beholden to the people that are developing it, they're not listening to the people that are developing it who are warning us about what AI is going to do to our country and to the world. And if we can't regulate it, then we're going to be in real trouble. And so you've got to push back up the ladder to DC to make sure that that provision is not included in this bill. Thank you.
Anybody who hasn't spoken yet? I was like, Sanjeev.
Don't do that again.
Where's the gentleman who just spoke? Thank you so much. I think you have hit the nail on the head. This is the huge tsunami that's coming behind us, and we are looking ahead and saying, what's the little waves? How can we tackle these little waves? It's behind us. And I'm on the State Fed and Veterans Committee, so if you want to reach out to our federal delegation, we have also Crystal Lloyd on the same committee. Reach out to us, and we can. There was another lady who talked about the federal delegation voting in a manner that was inconsistent with her vote. I don't know if that lady is still here in the audience. Please reach out to us, because we are hearing this. We are hearing some issues related to how the federal delegation is voting is inconsistent with what they voted. And your comment today is what keeps me awake. Because I use AI, and I feel like crap when I use it, because it's cheating. It's absolute cheating. I'm a professor of chemical engineering at UMass Lowell. And so I'm tempted to grade using AI. And I'm saying, I can't do this. It's very unethical. If I don't want my students to use AI, because it's so easy to grade using AI. You can just feed them, it'll give you the grade. And so it's really it's a drug. It's like people don't want to gamble because you get addicted to it. We're going to get addicted to AI. And so I thank you for bringing this up, and let's do. We have to work together. State reps we have to work together, because we all are getting addicted.
We don't have to look very far in our recent history of social media to see what that's done to our country and to our families and to children and to people that feel disenfranchised, so they sit in their basement playing video games all day. AI is going to be 10 times worse in terms of its implications. And we have the example, and we didn't regulate social media, and it'll be 10 times worse if we don't regulate AI.
So I will be very, very, very brief. I agree with you that it needs to be regulated, and now is the time to do it. It is expanding beyond like what I ever thought possible in a very short amount of time. I don't know if you've tried AI recently, but it is like, I'm shocked at how quickly it is moving forward. I did talk to a rep earlier tonight, and he was going to be looking at some legislation coming up in the next filing period, and I did ask him to see that, to see if I could sign on as a co-sponsor. So, coming.
I just want to mention that as somebody that ran for state rep because of the environment, that AI consumes an inordinate amount of power.
The Y2K, we had been so many things. Every time people who scared, they might lose in the competition. So my just request is keep your eyes and ears open. Try to basically see how you can adapt to it. And regulation is absolutely required. Thank you very much.
Other folks?
Carol Duffy, Ward 1. So I'm a little bit lazy. If something comes to me, ACLU or something, and it says, how do you feel about this? I will respond. If I see something in the newspaper, I will respond. I don't see a lot of, other than that, I don't really, I might read something really quickly and then, pass it by, don't respond to it. I wish that we had more information either through the Democratic Party here in Nashua, somewhere that we could look and say, hey, I have to write a letter today to this person. I'm not getting that. So that's one of my issues is I'm not getting enough information. I'm retired. I can do that. I can write a letter, but I'm not getting enough. Like, I didn't know anything about this, other than I read it quickly about the gun legislation for children, but I didn't respond to it. And I'm mad at myself, but I wish that there was more information. Who do I write to, and when do I do it?
You'll come right after me. I like to answer this question first by saying, where do you get your news? Because you have to be informed and be getting your news from the strong sources. And Union Leader? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to add a few things, and they're easy and they're free. Okay? First little pitch for local is Nashua Inklink. Sign up for their email. You get it every day. They are branching out a little bit into state level stuff. In-Depth New Hampshire does state level reporting. They send a daily newsletter with news. New Hampshire Bulletin also has a newsletter that they send out daily with headlines. Both In-Depth and New Hampshire Bulletin do very strong state level reporting. And of course, NHPR has a very strong state level reporting of what's happening at the State House. After the news part of it, what you asked about was finding out about advocacy and policy that you align with. And what I would recommend is following the American Friends Service Committee. They have a newsletter that they send out every week called State House Watch, which tells you what issues they're following, what bills they're following, and how to sign in and contact your legislators and stay connected that way. And also, Kent Street Coalition is another organization based in Concord that does a lot. American Friends Service Committee and Kent Street. So that's what I always bring to my constituents, but I will hand it to Will, who has an additional response. Oh. Granite Post is another one. New Hampshire Fiscal Policy Institute is another one that provides really good material. You're all throwing at me. There was one more. League of Women Voters. And wait, one last pitch for all of us. Almost all of us, a lot of us have social media that we are trying to connect with our constituents. We are on Facebook, we are on X, we are on Blue Sky, we are on Instagram, we are on, some of us are on TikTok. We are trying to get our information out to all of you, and we're trying to push the information to you in certain ways. So please follow the elected officials and also follow maybe the caucuses that you would want to be interested in up at Concord.
Thanks, Laura. First, the references that Laura just gave you, I'm going to add to the resource link. That is, if you scan the QR code at the back, I'm going to update the link that points to. And if you signed up with Mobilize, I will respond to the people that signed up through Mobilize with that link as well. So you'll have these references. Second point, and I very much appreciate your comment about the Nashua Dems, because I am the secretary of the Nashua Dems. And we do recognize the need for getting the word out. So we are going to be putting out a monthly newsletter for the first time since I've been part of it. So we do hear you. Thank you.
And Senator Rosenwald also has an email newsletter. If you reach out to her, you can get on her list.
Dale, and then we'll take another question.
So, being on science, technology, and energy, I'm a technology geek. And a lot of good resources were mentioned. Hopefully you can go look at those. But my wife and I were talking the other day. You know, we're seeing some things on the news, and we're hearing some things that are said by leaders of this country that are like, this is baloney. Who believes that? This is governing by fringe theory. And so some of these things that were mentioned, especially social media, will have algorithms that will steer people toward things that they've shown a predilection for. And they may never see some of the important messages that are out there that would keep them better informed. They will see the fringe stuff because maybe they did a search or friended somebody who likes fringe stuff. And they'll have, you know, lasers in the sky or microbots being seeded in the clouds or whatever, and they're going to start, you know, basically it's a feedback loop. So why do I bring this up? Okay, you know people, you have neighbors, you can be informed, but it's important that if the only way I can think of to kind of break through the noise, especially if somebody's in their own feedback loop, is maybe you have a friend or know somebody or reach out to 5 people and say, hey, what do you think about this that's happened and why do you think that? And, you know, point out the more logical or rational things and what you understand. And I find that talking with neighbors breaks down a lot of barriers, or at least establishes some better communication and understanding. And it's surprising that you can find common ground and communicate some of these things. So getting out there or reaching around these barriers. And so other communications methods. Just wanted to bring that up.
Other folks, we have 15 more minutes where we have all these wonderful state reps here at your disposal. It's very rare to get this amount of folks together outside of the State House, so.
I want to address the lady who was maybe she's left, who talked about youngsters. Oh, she just left. It's important to connect, and so I think dovetailing on what Dale was saying, if you could reach out to, I realize the average age in this audience is not representative of youngsters. If you could reach out to like 5 people, please make them 5 youngsters at least, you know. So I have 3 daughters who all went to Nashua High, did great things. I was talking to my middle daughter and said, Dad, you're not speaking to us. And I was trying to passionately say, I'm doing this in the State House, wonderful stuff, you know, we're getting killed out there, but we're going to, like, you know, next year we're going to come back. She says, Dad, you're not speaking our language. And it was a gut-wrenching hit. I thought I was doing great, you know. And my other daughter chimed in as well and said, Dad, you're boring. I mean, And that's not a term that was used for me. Okay, I mean, I'm not used to that term. So all I'm trying to share with you is this is how we come across to the younger generation, regardless of how we think we are coming across. So please keep that in mind when you communicate with them. And I think it'll be a great response. And so that opened my eyes. I said, I need to speak quickly. I shouldn't rationalize. I shouldn't intellectualize. Just speak the truth and just move on. You know, it's a way we communicate with youngsters that's important. You know. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm the in-house millennial. Go millennials. Marie Ramos, Ward 1. I'm obviously new to this area, but am a longstanding physician that has worked at Lamprey Healthcare for many years. So to that point, one of my areas of expertise is how to reach people that are historically excluded from these kind of conversations. And so one thing that's difficult is transportation and food and childcare. Many young families that are very passionate about the things that affect them also can't pay their rent and are trying to figure out how to buy their groceries, especially nowadays. So if you want young people, you gotta entice them with food. You gotta entice them with, raffles, right? Because it's a real need, and that's one way to help them spread the word. It doesn't have to be a lot. With that being said, physicians really like free food too, right? So our public servants throughout the city are working really hard, and so I'm curious, because I'm new to this part of Nashua living, what has been done in the past to help address those kind of real needs of the young folk?
I can talk a little bit about the transportation piece, and I just want to say that, so for part of our work right now, a lot of what I do is non-legislative, and so these would be projects that are either on the side or they're a commission that is actually part of state law. But right now, along with Representative Harriet Gathright, we are partnering with several volunteer agencies and reaching out to not-for-profits to find the people that are not being reached in terms of transportation. And this will involve the Regional Planning Commission. So we would have what we're trying to do is reach the people, get them to the Planning Commission, organize this committee, and have a continuous pipeline of information and involvement, so that if you're somebody who is working full-time and raising your children and trying to do daycare, and you're doing it on public transportation, you have a place to talk about that and to see how leaders who might need, maybe there's statutory solutions, but maybe there's also transportation solutions. And so we'll be looking at that and really examining that. And so I'm sure that other representatives here are involved in other non-legislative efforts that really are the things that we can do. We can tell you we're going to get done because we're already doing. So thank you.
Shout out to the National Regional Planning Commission. They do very important work.
Thank you so much for that question. That's very near and dear to the work that I do, and Jasmine back there as well, who has some of the other questions, the other young person in the room. I can say legislatively, as we kind of said, there's a lot going on. There's a lot that takes up a lot of the space and the air from the room. Just as Representative Vail said, there is a lot going on in Nashua for the young people. We are, Jasmine and I, and even Manny I know has participated. There's a fatherhood group. There's a new Nashua Family Network, which is made up of families and moms that try to share resources with each other. We're going to events. We are really at the grassroots level trying to create community. And when you said that, I almost grabbed the mic and I said, my favorite saying lately is the revolution will have childcare. Because, you know, through the Nashua Family Network and these fatherhood groups, we do not hold any event without food and childcare. And I think that is a standard that needs to become more and more accessible. We're also constantly talking about translation services. Who are we putting, right? How are we connecting with people? So I guess I could say, I do feel like there are efforts on the ground, and I think we're still working on bringing that up to, you know, the state level.
I want to make a quick plug. On Saturday from 10 to 12, the Nashua Dems are holding just a hangout for young parents. So if y'all have kids at Atherton Park, y'all want to bring the kids to the playground, 10 to 12. I won't be there because I'm going to be traveling. But I'm very excited because I've been involved with the Nashua Dems now for the last 10 years, and we have never done anything like this. So we've had parties at the park, at the Greeley Park, but we've never really had something specifically tailored for young parents. So very excited, 10 to 12 this Saturday, Atherton Park. Come through.
It's part of our efforts to meet people where
I don't know. Maybe we should have food though. It's a great idea, Joanne.
Go ahead. Go ahead,
Linda.
Dr. Ramos, how are you? It's good to see you here. So, now that you're here in Nashua, there's a lot of work to be done. A lot of work. So we would love to have you working with us.
Other questions, other suggestions, other things you want to contribute? The youngsters. Oh, wow. Sure, I'll go.
Hi, good to see you. All right, you guys all know me already. I'm Sam Kluger. I live in Ward 3, and my mom's a state rep. There she is. I just want to say, since all my friends I hang out with, a lot of them did switch over and vote for President Trump this past election, who voted for President Biden the first time. And they did this because of money. They thought he would be the solution, and they still think as of right now. I talk to them all the time. And they can't afford to live on their own. So if you're living with 3 to 4 people in a house or an apartment, that's not going to work. So we need to find ways or policies that would help them. And me too. I can't afford to live on my own as well, I have to say. So it's difficult because, sorry, lost my train of thought. But basically, we need to find ideas why people my age switched over to, I'll say, the dark side, basically. But that is what I talk to my friends all the time. I just talked to them. I'm seeing them again this weekend. I'm going to a wedding, and they all supported President Trump this time around, and they did switch over because they can't afford to live by themselves. They have more than one college degree, and that's a big concern that we need to focus on, or more people my age will switch over in 2 years and in 4 years from now. So that's all I gotta say.
Thank you.
Five. Are all of those young people still happy with their choice?
Need a microphone.
Do they not see the
Need a microphone.
Okay.
5 minutes.
So we have 5 more minutes. So folks want to take a crack at this?
Just turn it on and talk.
Dale, go ahead.
Last question. Okay. Yeah. This actually ties in, that point ties into an issue, which is, why aren't you doing more? You know, a lot of disappointment, and yeah, the Democratic Party is heavily represented here, but there was a, I won't call it a falsehood, there was a lie that was promoted, which was, I am going to make things cheaper for you. And it was spread, and it continues to be spread, and it is further spread by media outlets that continue to promote that lie. So what can we do about it? Well, we can't think, well, how can we make things cheaper? Well, we could make things cheaper, but the lie would still be there. And so the key is making sure that the misinformation is identified and called out where it is. There has to be, and I feel strongly that when I'm asked why aren't you doing something, well, I think that there will be a way. There will be a recognition or acceptance. I truly believe that, but we need to make sure that is communicated that things are not going well. And it is bad news here, probably not going to get much better, but that's a national level. We're working at the state level here, and we're trying to address all of the questions that have been brought up as best we can at the state level. But all I can do is offer some hope that if we can push back on the misinformation, that's probably the best way, and inform your friends. Ask them questions, besides whether you have enough money for this or that, what does the future look like as far as what's actually being done? People promise that things are going to be cheaper, but is it really? And what's the outlook?
That, I want to give a thank you to everyone here who brought up their suggestions, their questions, their thoughts. I want to give a shout out to all the reps here. We're very, very lucky. We have 21 state reps here that represent 64,000 people, basically. Right, yeah, because 21, 3,300. So we're very lucky, but we also, that means that we have a lot of work to do, that we have to make sure that we talk to our constituents, that our constituents know how to get a hold of them. And I just want to say I appreciate the hard work that they do, having been a former state rep, going up to Concord, serving on their committees, serving in the general court, going to session days. It's a lot of tough work, so they need your support. If there are concerns that you guys have, make sure you email them, call them. You can go to Gen Court, the Gen Court website. Just Google it, because I forgot it off the top of my head. Oh yeah, scan the QR code. But it's important for you to reach out to them to hear what is important to you and and to thank them for their work. So thank you so much, and have a wonderful night.